Hi, today I'm going to teach you how to calculate your relationship sign astrologically, the way proper astrologers do it. And I want you to listen not to just one video, because it's not just one sign that describes your relationship. It's not that easy. Things are quite mixed always and quite complex, as you've noticed by real astrology I've been trying to teach you. It's never black and white. It's never, oh, your Aries and your partners will be always like Libras. But it's always, we look at relationship, first of all, from the ascendant sign. That's how we calculate relationship. From the seventh sign from the ascendant, or we call it the seventh house, describes your marriage partner. Most often how he'll be physically, how he'll be like persona-wise. But if you don't know your ascendant sign, you can find it by going to my website, AstroLada.com, following the link below. Or following the link below, and go to the ascendant sign calculator, enter the time of your birth correctly. Say if you're born 6:30 in the afternoon, enter it like 18:30, the European way. And once you have the ascendant sign, listen to the relationship description for the ascendant sign. Give the ascendant sign make it the first one you listen to, because it will be probably more than 40% true. You identify with more than 40% with it. And then find out your moon sign, because the moon has direct relevance to relationships as well, because the moon is the planet of emotions and feelings and vulnerability in our inner world and how we connect to others. Therefore, it's one of the most important planets for deciding relationships. And once you know the sign of your moon, then go and listen to the relationship description of your moon sign as well. It will probably give you 30% description of your partner will be like, or for some, even especially for females, because females identify with the moon much more than males, because the moon is a feminine planet and females are feminine creatures. A lot of the women can identify a lot with the description of the partnerships of the moon sign, actually, and again, the partnerships from the moon sign are again defined by counting 7 signs from the sign of the moon. So basically the opposite sign. It's always the opposite sign of the one that you have as the moon sign, as the ascendant sign, or sun sign. And also check the description of the partnership for your sun sign, especially males, because the sun is a masculine planet and males identify more with their rational, logical side, with their more, goal-oriented and active side, which is described by the moon. And a lot of women will also identify with it, because in those day and age, nowadays, women are much more in touch with their masculine side, with their active and goal-oriented, achieving side, rational side, And the sun sign is the one everyone knows. If you're born in April, you're probably Aries or Taurus. If you're born in September, you're probably Virgo or Libra. This is the one everyone knows. It will probably give you 25% the sign, the description of the partnerships that you're going to attract. But make sure you listen to the 3 of them to get the fuller picture. Some of you identify more with the ascendant sign partnership. Some of them will identify more with the sign opposite the moon. Some of you with the sign opposite the sun. But you will definitely feel the 3 sign partnerships as well. When you think about it, you will. But again, I keep saying, I think the ascendant is the most relevant one through watching through my practice in the long years. What if your ascendant is in Gemini then? Or your moon is in Gemini, or your sun is in Gemini? Then the sign of your relationships will be the sign opposite Gemini, and this is Sagittarius. So you'll probably meet someone who has their sun, their ascendant, or their moon in Sagittarius, or some other planet in Sagittarius, or even if they don't have any planets in Sagittarius in their horoscope, they will most probably have an extremely strong Jupiter in their horoscope, because Jupiter rules Sagittarius and it will make them Sagittarius-like. But even if you don't know astrology, all you need to know is that if you have your ascendant or your moon or your sun in Gemini, the type of partners that you'll be attracting will be acting like Sagittarius, the sign opposite your sign, And what are they like, these Geminis? Well, they're very freedom-loving people. It's very hard to make them settle, because they're They like to travel, to roam, to explore. They're so open-minded that they're willing to welcome and anything, any new adventure, any new people. And and often you can attract foreigners as well, because Jupiter is the sign of foreigners, something that is exotic, something that is, that is very tolerant of someone that is, you can attract people that the foreigners, your partners can be, your partnership can be, long-term partnership can be with people from different background and cultures. So people who are very adventurous, who are almost, remember Brad Pitt from Legends of the Fall, his character there, how he would, every few years or so, he would need to get away and travel all over the world and do his own things, Very often you might be coming across such partners, And even if they don't literally roam around the world and travel, they'll be very idealistic, They'll be very focused on a goal and high ideals. And it can even drive you mad, because you as Gemini are more practical, more centered into everyday earthly activities, you also love to exchange information and knowledge, but it's on a much more practical level, like the news, like magazine, like the gossip, what's happening. You'll be informed about everything. But Sagittarius type of partners you'll be attracted, they'll be on a much more idealistic and philosophical level of the higher mind, rather than the mind of the everyday activities and curiosities, But you need such partners, because you as Gemini, as having Gemini in your horoscope, you're extremely talented people, and very multi-talented, actually, very skillful in many directions. And a lot of you actually don't know where to focus their attention, where to focus their efforts, and all those talents that you have. And you need someone, and that's how you attract it through partnerships, who is much more one goal person. And the Sagittarius sign is the centaur with the arrow, and the arrow is pointing in one direction. And the people you'll be attracted to, they'll be like very focused as well into one direction, into certain ideal, and they'll help you also focus your mind into what activities to put your efforts into, because you might be so chaotic, jumping all over the place, while they're focused, Imagine their sign. And also you need such partners. They might be very philosophically inclined, high-minded people. And because you, as having Gemini inside of you, in your horoscope, you're very often, I don't want to say not moral, but you act through your mind. You always base your decisions and your actions on the logic of the mind, a Gemini. And the mind, we know, and the logic, it can excuse almost anything if it decides. For instance, I'm cheating on my husband, but my lover makes me so much happier and inspired, and because I'm like that, I make my husband also happier. So after all, it's not so bad that I'm cheating. This is how the mind works. The logic, it can excuse anything, basically. But if the partners you would be meeting, they'll be much more moral, because much more they'll have some belief or philosophy, and very often spiritual people. They'll believe in a higher power beyond themselves. It's not necessarily that they're Jehovah's Witnesses, not at all, but they'll just have an inner understanding of the grander laws of the universe, and they'll be connected somehow to, they'll have an inner wisdom. And they'll know that what you do, it comes back to you eventually. For instance, they'll know that they'll know what is morally right and wrong on an instinctive level, without having to study philosophy or anything. This will make them a bit more high-minded. So often you can attract such high-minded people, and they'll teach you how to look at the bigger picture of life, because Sagittarius is the sign that looks on things from above. It has a much broader perspective. Well, for instance, Gemini would be like a bit like, centered more into the earthly material things. Sagittarius type of partners, they'll help you see the bigger picture. They'll help you plan for the future. They'll help you focus your energy in one direction, as I said again, and to be more idealistic, more moral, not to always act only from your mind, but to be connected somehow to a higher power within yourself. And because you're as Gemini, as having signs in Gemini, you'd always be judging your decisions or your actions on your intellect, on your knowledge, on your logic, and they'll teach you how to trust your gut instinct, probably, how to act from wisdom, from inner wisdom, the wisdom of the body, of the intuition rather than of the mind, and they will teach you, as I said, to be more spiritual, more philosophical, to be more concerned with ethical issues. So they'll just bring them up, those ethical issues, you absorb them through them being in your life somehow, and in the worst case scenario, when they're not so evolved type of Sagittarius partners you attract, they will be just hard to settle. They'll need a lot of freedom. They might be a bit uncaring, because they're so focused in their idealism or their goals, that they have big goals they're following, because Sagittarius type people go after big goals, that they might forget about your feelings. They might forget about other people. They might be almost in a bit selfish, they might be very strongly opinionated because of this philosophical outlook they have. They think they're because they almost feel themselves like teachers. The ones that, especially the ones that are not so evolved, they'll think like their opinion, that's all that matters, that's the only right one, no one else's opinion matters, and they'll try and impose it on others like teachers, because Sagittarius is the sign of the teacher, but in its best, more evolved stage, this will be someone who has inner wisdom about life, and he can give you this inner wisdom without trying to force his opinions on you. He will just lead by example, And on a more practical, everyday level, the type of partners you'd enjoy, as I say, they'll be very joyful. They might be foreigners. They might be very excitable, adventurous, eager to expand, to have new experiences in life. And they would also help you expand your mind as well. And they'll have faith in the good of life, just like jolly, positive, happy people as a whole. And you have to develop this side of yourself as well. You teach them on the other side to be more practical, and hopefully they can appreciate it, so they're not always on cloud nine, and so they can come back to earth a bit, and take care of the more practical things of life. And maybe your first relationships, you'd always have to be taking care of the more practical things for them while they're well on some mission of saving the world or whatever, of doing some grand deed or doing something very excitable for them, that they almost forget about the everyday realities and the necessities of life, But yeah, as I say, we need to develop the opposite qualities. You have to develop a bit like them, and your partners who are Sagittarius likely develop the qualities that you have inside of yourself, of the quality of practicality, of logical mind, of curiosity, of all these wonderful Gemini qualities of analysis by the mind, and you develop the more faith in life, more faith in a higher power, your inner wisdom, instinctual knowledge. I hope you enjoyed this, and let me know what you think. Check all your 3 signs, the ascendant, sun, and the moon, and combine them to see what kind of partners you'll most often be attracting. And write to me, did you find the description from your sun sign, moon sign, or ascendant sign most correct for your partner? Because I want to make a statistics and see, which sign people identify most with. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.